Oh, we're recording already. It's embarrassing. So hello to everybody that's watching this video. Thank you very much for clicking on the link. Basically, I want to make a video, my first video, really, beside the intro, about the philosophy of the tennis instructor. And I'm going to touch upon what my philosophy is and what I think that a teacher should be, not just for tennis, but overall. All right? First, I want to say that if you're interested in becoming a tennis instructor or a teacher of any kind, really, make sure that it's something that you really want to do. It's not something that you're going to get rich at. It's not something that is always going to be exceptionally rewarding. There's going to be good days and bad days, just like any job. Sometimes people believe that teaching tennis is very glamorous, and there's occasions when it can be. You know, if you're working in an exotic location, at a club med maybe. I don't know. I've never worked something like that. I've worked in just indoor tennis clubs on Long Island. But make sure it's something you really want to do. You know, don't do it for the wrong reasons. All right, don't do it to pick up women. Don't do it because you think you're gonna get rich because you're not. Do it because you want to give back to the sport. All right. Next thing I want to say is that if you're gonna do it, take it seriously because people pay a lot of money to take tennis lessons. Instruction in tennis is very expensive, and that's something probably I'll make another video about is the economics of the sport. Most of the clientele that I've worked with has been affluent people, people that are doing okay, that they have enough money to put their sons and daughters in tennis instruction. You know, the economics of the sport make it really tough for low-income families to play tennis. You know, you need a racket that will cost you retail $200. You need balls, you need sneakers, you need court time, and it adds up. You know, you pop a string, all of a sudden, stringing your racket can cost anywhere between $20 to $50, and it adds up. So if you're going to teach tennis, take it seriously because people are paying a lot of money. You know, I'm coming from a lower middle class family, and that being the case, I feel almost when I started teaching, I felt that people were insane to spend that much money on tennis instruction. But because I was coming from that background, I tried to get better very fast at becoming a good tennis pro, giving good instruction. Because the last thing you want, or that I wanted really, was for people to take a lesson with me and feel like they didn't get their money's worth. So, I mean, on average, you're going to spend about $100 for a private lesson for 1 hour on Long Island, you know, and that's an average, you know. You're not going to be paying much less, but you're certainly going to be paying a lot more depending on what club you go to. So, take it seriously. People are spending a lot of money, and if you're not invested in it, if you're not feeling 100%, if you're not sleeping well, eating well, if you're not doing what you need to do, you're going to give a crappy lesson, and you know, people don't deserve that. People are paying more than $1 an hour for you to do your job. So take it seriously, you know. Um, Another thing I wanted to talk about was what you need to teach tennis. What are the skill sets? Because in truth, I feel like every schmuck out there that's played tennis, or that's played tennis in college, feels like they can teach, and that's not always the case. You know, some of the best instructors that you'll find are not going to be the best players either. You know, and that makes a lot of sense. You're never going to see like a professional player more than likely being able to get beat by their coach. You know, Roger Federer is not taking on a coach that's going to beat him on the court. You know, that's not what the coach does. So that you can play good tennis doesn't mean that you can teach good tennis. Um, you know, you need a certain amount of skill in playing, but it's more important to have a skill set that lies in teaching and communicating. You know, when people don't get it right away, are you going to get frustrated? Are you going to be able to figure out a way for them to learn what it is they want to learn? Are you going to figure out a way to teach them what they need to learn in order to get to the level that they want to be, to reach their goals? So, that you play good tennis, don't go into teaching just because, you play good tennis and you think that you'll make some quick cash doing it. All right? If you're going to become an instructor, invest in yourself insofar as learning how to teach. There's a lot of articles and stuff that I've read about teaching in general. How do you teach in a low-income neighborhood? How do you teach people with disabilities? How do you teach people with learning disabilities? Stuff like that is really important and will help you in your career if that's something that you want to do. If you want to teach tennis, it's important that you invest in learning teaching skill sets. All right. Next thing, take responsibility for the class and for the client. Um, One of the things that I think teachers in general do a great deal is that they're quick to shirk the responsibility of learning on the student. And that's just not the case. I don't believe that. I've never believed that. And that's really bothered me a lot. I've gotten into a lot of heated discussions with other people about where that responsibility lies. Some people will tell you that, well, the kid has problems at home, so he can't learn. Or the kid is a troublemaker, he's got behavioral issues, and so he's not going to learn. But you know what? The way I see it is that you're getting paid to teach. They're not getting paid to learn. So if you're getting paid to do a job, you've got to take the responsibility of that job. If someone is paying you to teach them something and they don't learn it, that's your fault. All right? You can't use the excuse that they were resistant to the instruction, that they didn't listen to you, they were giving you a hard time. So what? So what? You're the one getting paid, so it's your responsibility to teach them. And if that doesn't happen, that's your fault, and you have to take the accountability for that. And that's always been my philosophy. And if you adopt that philosophy, I think that, like myself, you'll improve very quickly. Because then, if you take that responsibility, you have to figure out a way to get through to the kids that don't get it as quick, or are resistant to instruction, or have behavioral issues. How do you deal with someone that's heckling or trolling you on the court? How do you deal with someone that tells you they want to learn one thing and then they give you a hard time about the way you're teaching it to them? Maybe you're teaching them forehands and backhands one way and they're just not getting it. It's easy to say, oh, they're just not athletic. No. Figure out a way to teach someone that is not athletic a forehand and a backhand. Oh, this person is lazy, they don't want to move. Well, figure out a way to get through to them to get them to move. It's your job to motivate them in such a way that they're going to move, that they want to move, that they're going to find a certain joy in tennis enough that they're going to overcome whatever it is they need to overcome to get to where they want to be. Take that responsibility, put the accountability on yourself, and you will develop as a tennis pro very quickly. Ways to do that: professional education and development. It's one of the most important things that you can possibly do for yourself, is to do as much professional education and development as you can possibly afford. I can't go to every conference, I can't visit every symposium, but I do as much as I can possibly afford. There's times when I just can't take off of work. There's conferences that are in California that I sometimes can't go to. The airfare is a lot, the hotel is a lot, and it's just not economical. So I do as much as I can. Um, so that's something that you need to consider if you're looking to become a tennis instructor. If you want to teach, invest in yourself in that way. Figure out what people are doing, what people are having success with. We're not teaching tennis the way we were teaching tennis in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. What are people doing now? What are people having success with? How are players developing now? The game of tennis has changed so much from generation to generation that we're forced to change. We're forced to adapt. We're forced to learn new ways of teaching old, old techniques. You know. So before, serving and volleying was a little bit more popular than right now. Technology has gotten a little bit further and taken us to a place where there's less volleying. So what do you do with that? How do you teach someone to play more from the baseline than volleying without sacrificing their volley game? That's something you got to figure out. But that's something that other people are trying to figure out too. And the more you learn from your co-workers and other people in the industry, the better off you're going to be. So invest in professional education, invest in professional development. Do as much as you can afford, because all that puts tools in your toolbox. It makes you a better instructor, and it not only benefits you, but it benefits the clients. You know? So you can teach a forehand, good for you. How many ways can you teach it? If someone doesn't understand it the way you explain it, do you have another way? I've got 7 ways, you know? How many ways can you teach the serve? How do you break it down? You gotta have multiple ways to teach things. You gotta be able to teach multiple people. Everybody is different, so you have to adapt. And that's what professional education and professional development do for you. So do as much as you can. And I think the last thing that I wrote that I wanted to talk about is something I did when I was beginning as a tennis pro, is to actually go and sit in on classes. Everybody's taking lessons. I'm sure if you're looking to teach, you probably have taken lessons, you've probably played, but have you thought about the structure of the lesson? How is a lesson structured? How does someone give instruction? Stuff like that is really important. And what I did was, the club where I started working at, I started sitting in on classes with instructors that I wanted to emulate, instructors that I thought were really excellent at doing what they do, people with a lot of experience under their belt. And I went on the court, I sat on the bench with a notepad and a pen, and I started writing down, all right, how much time did they spend on this? How much time did they spend on that? Everybody's different. Everybody teaches a different way. So it's kind of interesting to see how different people, how they, what is their style? What is their instruction style? If you take a little bit from everyone, you'll find that you'll develop as an instructor faster and better. Take the good parts out of the instructors that you work with or instructors that you want to emulate, and from there you can build on your own instructional style. What kind of instructor do you want to be? So don't be ashamed, do not be shy about going to other tennis pros and sitting down with a pad and a pen and actually taking down notes. Take down notes, write down what drills they do, write down how long they spend on each element. What games do they play? How do they structure their lesson? Most instructors will structure their lessons from simplest to hardest. Simple task, more difficult task. Others don't. Other people play right off the bat. Other people drill first. Some people play games right away. So if you really, if you want to get good at teaching tennis, you need to do that. You need to go sit down with people, collaborate. All right. So that's about. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. I'm sure there's 1,000 other things I'll think about later on. But if you have any questions, feel free to message me on YouTube, or you can leave me a comment in the comments, and I will definitely write you back. All right. That's it. Thanks very much.